Hi, let's talk about shoulder external rotation, which if you've ever had any rehab, you've heard of, you've been given little exercises. It may not make perfect sense to you why and how to fit this in, but the strength in the rotator cuff, muscles that surround the head of the humerus here and help hold that ball into the socket. Ball into the saucer is maybe a better analogy here. So the rotator cuff muscles are an important part of the shoulder stability, but for performance, for solving problems, just a big part of shoulder health, external rotation. So again, what we're talking about is the humerus, the upper arm bone here, rotating in the socket, right? And this can happen in a bunch of different positions with the elbow bent or the elbow straight. That's not, doesn't directly affect the rotation that we're talking about. So let's start with the basics here. Again, if you've had physical therapy, you've probably done this one, maybe with a band or with some really small weight laying on your side. But you're going to bring your upper arm in against the side of your torso so that you're supporting this and pull out. I'm externally rotating, and what we're trying to do here is keep the whole rest of my body as still as possible and just focus on this rotation in the shoulder. All right, so that's the basis of this. Once you're past the initial rehab stage, though, we need to add increasingly more load, and high-end athletes actually need a fair amount of strength here. The stronger the rest of my shoulders are, the stronger this external rotation needs to be to keep everything in balance. So the next step would be bringing your arm up a little bit, just opening up this angle a little bit, and same thing, rotating. Now from here I can rig a band, I'll show you that in a moment, or depending on where you are, if this hurts or is sketchy, then you start empty-handed, then you start adding really small weights, like maybe a small plate or the smallest dumbbell you've got, some little thing here to start adding load to this. As your shoulder gets a little healthier, more capable, start bringing this up to the side, and same thing, externally rotating. Now, as the loads get larger, really all the time, but especially as the loads get larger, we want to avoid a couple of things. One, flapping my elbow around. As I'm bringing my hand up, it's kind of easy to drop the elbow and think that you're accomplishing something. That's a more complicated shoulder adduction. What we're after is just pure rotation here. So it's useful to imagine, especially with both arms up, like a broomstick running from one elbow through my shoulders to the other elbow. I'm out here like a scarecrow, and I want to lift my chest, so I'm pulling shoulder blades back and down, not letting this happen, and pull. You can do this on a seated cable machine, maybe with a rope handle, and pull. We can do it with small weights, you can do it with bands, but the rotation is shoulders stable and fixed, elbows out to the side, externally rotating. So now let's show a couple of different applications of this. So one great way to add resistance to this motion is bands. Fix the band on whatever's convenient. It's best if it's about shoulder height, at least at first, so you get a nice level pull. What I'm going to do is start by squeezing my shoulder blades together and driving my upper arms into that same scarecrow position that we've been talking about. So my whole upper back is engaged here. Shoulder blades are squeezed together, and again, sternum is pushed up. Right? So we're really trying to avoid any kind of dumping action like this. Big chest, squeeze those shoulder blades together, drive your elbows back, and now, just like before, I'm going to externally rotate. You'll find it doesn't take very much resistance here. We tend to be super weak at this. There's a There's a major gain in shoulder health we can make by adding strength. And at first, a light band or a light dumbbell is going to be plenty of resistance. Let me show you another variation. So a great way to progress your shoulder external rotation is to add weight. Again, though, we tend to be way too weak in this motion, so adding weight can make it very hard to control both your shoulder blade and your elbow. Your body will start to try to pull a number of stunts to work around the deficiency. So one thing we can do is actually use our elbow to support use our knee to support the elbow. So what I'm going to do is set up on a bench, and I'm trying to get this open position as best I can. It's not going to work perfectly just from the mechanics of our bodies, but I'm going to try to turn and open my shoulder up, and I'm propping my knee, my elbow on my knee as much as I can here. And from this position, so avoid turning in like this. This isn't useless, and if you need to start here, do it. But the goal is to be able to get those shoulders more open and express the strength in that position. So from here, press yourself in as flat a position as you can here, and nice and controlled on the way up, nice and controlled on the way down. A quick note at the bottom. In a perfect world, we could also internally rotate all the way down. Most of us are a little restricted here. So as you get somewhere down to the lower part of this motion, you'll feel binding in the shoulder, and your shoulder, the whole scapula, shoulder blade, will want to dump forward if you keep pressing your hand down. So we don't want this. We want to keep the shoulder blade in a nice stable position. As you're coming down and you hit that restriction, maybe reach over and touch with one finger, just a light touch so that you can feel what's going on, and push against the restriction just a little. Don't let your shoulder dump, but we can turn this into a bit of an active stretch at the bottom here, working on the internal rotation as well as on the way up, external rotation. Pull all the way up as much as you can. You're going to need to start with lighter dumbbells than you think, and sometimes just little tiny, half-pound plates. It's ridiculous how small a weight it takes to start sometimes.